So
Yes.
I have many friends in Israel universities. I mean, many, I can say, friends in diplomatic community. I don't know if you have read our two volumes on Israel relations with India. You
I
can
will.
find the details on our website. One is country-specific studies. The first one was Iran, then we went to Israel also. So we have been focusing on this. I mean, in India-Israel relations and all that.
Yes,
So
I'm so happy to hear.
yeah. And there was a reason for actually I was looking for someone who has been doing specialized research in India-Israel relations and all that. And fortunately, I found your resume and all that on LinkedIn. So I think you are the best person to explain things. I mean,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
so the period that I have given to you, 2014, is really very significant in India's foreign policy history. And we can see a significant change in not in policy as such, but in our approach, how we should move forward, how we should set our goals in foreign policy, how our diplomacy should be conducted and all that. So 2014 is a landmark in India's foreign policy. Not because another party came to power, but there was a change in the approach, how we should handle our foreign policy, how we should handle our relations with the countries of the world and all that. And that has paid dividend, I think. And so many myths have been, demolished after 2014. I mean, we were having some other ideas about the relationship with many other countries. But after 2014, India has become very realistic now in its approach.
Yes.
And we look more to our national interest, which every country looks forward. But now we can say that we are more concerned with our national interest. So this world power, major power rivalries. I mean, it's all right. They will go on. You can't check them. But every country has to look its own national interest. So is the case with Israel. I mean, they are brave people. They have defended their, integrity, their sovereignty, their independence for a very long time. And that is something which is to be appreciated. I mean, such a small country, I mean, which can defend its independence and sovereignty is something worth emulating, and which other countries should also try to follow and all. So this is one of the reasons that I am fond of this small country, and we hope that the two nations come together and uh, they move forward in various. There are a lot of areas in which they can cooperate. Well, I think you know more than me because you are specializing, in this area and all that. So I think you can uh, begin your lecture. Would you like to have your PPT, etc., or you would like to read? What you would
I
like
don't,
to do?
yes, I don't have a PTT. We'll just have a kind of discussion. I
Yeah,
will present the topic and then,
I will do one thing. I will make
yes,
you
please.
the host. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And
Okay.
you can do whatever you like, whether you want to read, you want to use PPT. So we always make the guest as a host. So I mean, the guest has every freedom, every liberty to about I mean how they want to do it and all that. So I'm just trying to make you the host. Okay, just a minute.
Okay. I am the host now. I can say it.
Oh yeah. So
Thank you, sir.
now the stage is yours. You are there and you are free to do whatever you like. So please, and before you begin, I would like to thank you very much for sparing time. And I'm happy that you have agreed to accept our invite at a very short notice. And that is something which also gives us hope that in future, whenever we require your guidance about Indo-Israeli relations, we will have the benefit. So please go on. Please go on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, hello, everybody. I would like to, first of all, thank you, Professor Gol, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to discuss about India-Israel relations since 2014. India and Israel established full diplomatic relations in 1992. Both countries are strategic partners and cooperate extensively in a wide range of sectors such as defense, trade, agriculture, water management, and space. Since Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to power in 2014, he wanted to change the approach towards the Jewish state. He wanted to gradually develop a strong relationship, a stronger and more open relationship with the Jewish state without alienating the Arab states and the Palestinian Authority. This is why he decided to pay state visits to the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Qatar in the beginning of his first term. The main objectives of these visits was to strengthen India's political, economic, and security relations with strategic partners in West Asia. However, Prime Minister Modi did not neglect Israel. He aspired to extend the relations with Israel by promoting high-level visits of Indian politicians and diplomats to Israel. During these visits, leaders of India and Israel focused on a wide range of sectors as security, agriculture, and trade. In November 2014, Indian Home Minister Rajnath Singh paid an official visit to Israel. During his visit, he encouraged Israel to be part of the Make in India initiative, which Prime Minister Modi promoted in order to extend the development and the production of the industrial sector in India. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was in favor of this policy. He believed it will diversify Israel's manufacturing opportunities. In October 2015, the late Indian President Pranab Mukherjee paid an official visit to Israel. He was the first Indian president to do so. Before arriving to Israel, he paid an official visit to Jordan and the West Bank in order to show India's commitment to the Palestinian cause. In January 2016, the late External Affairs Minister of India, Sushma Swaraj, paid an official visit to Israel. Similar to President Mukherjee, she also paid an official visit to the Palestinian Authority in order to assert India's commitment and support to the Palestinian cause and maintain a balanced approach between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. This balanced approach characterized India's Israel policy since the normalization of relations between both countries. Israeli politicians also paid official visits to India. Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon visited India in 2015. He was the first Israeli defense minister to do so since the establishment of full diplomatic relations between both countries in 1992. Minister Ya'alon expressed his willingness to help Prime Minister Modi to promote his Make in India initiative by providing Israeli technologies to India. Israel is India's second largest defense supplier after Russia, and India is Israel's third largest trade partner in Asia. Both countries extended their defense relations and enhanced their cooperation in the fight against terrorism and radicalization, not only on the bilateral level, but also on the multilateral level, together with the United States and the Gulf countries. India and Israel are located in challenging geopolitical regions and have to deal with Islamist extremism. By cooperating together, they will be able to address these common security challenges. In November 2016, Israeli President Reuven Rivlin paid an official visit to India. It was the second sitting Israeli head of state to do so, following President Ezel Weizmann's visit in December 1996. During his visit, India and Israel signed agreements in the field of agriculture, water management, defense, and aerospace. President Rivlin also declared that he is not only ready and willing to make in India, but also to make with India, thus emphasizing the need of mutual cooperation between both countries in order to promote their respective interests. These official visits prepared the ground for the much anticipated state visit of Prime Minister Modi to Israel in 2017. It was considered to be an historic visit since Prime Minister Modi was the first sitting Indian Premier to pay an official visit to the Jewish state. During his visit, India and Israel signed 7 agreements in different areas such as agriculture, energy, space, and water management. We can see that these relations are not confined only to military and trade issues, but also to other issues which are considered to be strategic to both countries. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Israel enabled India to have a more open and public relations with the Jewish state. It also permitted India to decouple its relations with Israel from its relations with the Palestinian Authority. This policy is known as the de-hyphenated policy. The main objective of this policy is to treat separately Israel and the Palestinian Authority without being compelled to balance the relations between both entities. This policy was first manifested when Prime Minister Modi paid an official visit to Israel without immediately paying an official visit to the Palestinian Authority, as it was done before by President Mukherjee and EAM Sushma Swaraj. Prime Minister Netanyahu paid a reciprocal state visit to India in January 2018. He came along with a business delegation of 130 members and signed economy, science, high-tech, agriculture, and defense agreements with India. Netanyahu emphasized the importance of expanding the cooperation between both countries in the areas of innovation, business, trade, higher education, science, technology, tourism, and culture. His objective was to change the perception of the Indian people about Israel and strengthen the people-to-people relations of both countries through cinema and tourism. Netanyahu was the second Israeli prime minister to pay a visit to India, as Prime Minister Ariel Sharon was the first Israeli premier to do so in September 2003. Now, when the COVID pandemic erupted in 2020, both countries decided to cooperate closely in order to provide adequate medical treatment to their respective citizens. India exempts Israel from the export ban it imposed on masks and raw materials, while India sent oxygen generators, medication, respirators, and other medical equipment to India. Now, during the pandemic, there was a change of government and leadership in Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett succeeded Prime Minister Netanyahu in June 2021. In October 2021, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar paid an official visit to Israel in order to extend their strategic relations between both countries, and in order to extend the strategic relations between both countries and meet the Israeli government led by Prime Minister Bennett. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi invited his Israeli counterpart to visit India. Both leaders met on the sidelines of the UN COP26 Climate Summit in Glasgow in November 2021 and expressed their willingness to continue the strategic partnership between both countries. Prime Minister Bennett was supposed to visit India in April 2022. However, he couldn't do so due to health issues. In June 2022, Prime Minister Bennett dissolved the Israeli parliament, which is called the Knesset, and Prime Minister Yair Lapid succeeded him in July 2022. Prime Minister Modi expressed his aspiration to continue the strategic partnership between both countries as they mark 30 years of full diplomatic relations. In the beginning of this month of November 2022, legislative elections were held in Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is trying, as we speak, to form a government in Israel. I believe that the relations between India and Israel will continue to thrive no matter who will take the reins of power in Israel or in India. The only difference will be manifested in the level of openness and visibility of these relations. Now, one can ask, what exactly led to this change of approach towards the Jewish state? So what is important to know that when we are analyzing and trying to understand international issues of international relations or even foreign policy, we have to take a comprehensive approach. And we have also to understand where are the domestic, the regional, and the international dynamics which lead a certain country to change or to promote a certain policy. So what enabled Prime Minister Modi, among other reasons, to conduct a more pragmatic approach towards Israel was different dynamics that occurred in North Africa and West Asia. We're talking about the Arab Spring, which erupted in December 2010, the signing of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which is called the Iran Deal in 2015, and the signing of the Abraham Accords in September 2020. The Arab Spring destabilized many countries in West Asia and put aside the Palestinian issue from the regional and international agendas. Many countries in West Asia changed their attitude towards Israel and considered the Jewish state to be a source of stability in a combustible region. The hegemonic aspirations of Iran in West Asia and the signing of the JCPOA were another reason for Arab states to get closer to Israel. The unwillingness of the US to be involved in regional issues also alarmed many Arab states in West Asia and led to the signing of the Abraham Accords between Israel, Bahrain, the UAE, and the US, and later on also with Morocco and Sudan. Following the signing of the Abraham Accords, India and Israel extended their relations from the bilateral level to the multilateral level by forming an alliance between India, Israel, the UAE, and the US in October 2021. This multilateral engagement, which is known also as the mini Quad of West Asia or the Quad of West Asia, will allow these countries to expand their security, economic, and political relations by addressing common threats and opportunities, not only in West Asia, but also in the world. The Abraham Accords will also enable India to have better connectivity and access to the Israeli and European markets by shipping goods through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. Today, we see the de-hyphenated policy of India is not only true for Israel and the Palestinian Authority. This is an approach that Prime Minister Modi is promoting with different countries in the world, such as the US and Russia, Saudi Arabia and Iran. And we can see that the approach of Prime Minister Modi in the world is a more pragmatic one, something that is very much felt here also when we are dealing with India and Israel relations. I believe that India and Israel will continue to have a fruitful engagement in different areas, and that the people-to-people connection will extend as well. I think that this session is another example of we can share and extend our academic relations between Israelis and Indians. And I am sure that, as I said earlier, that both countries will continue to have strategic relations in different sectors, and will continue to engage in strategic endeavors. I will stop here, and I will be more than happy to take some questions if there are. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nina. You've given a quite comprehensive account of the India-Israel relations since 2014, the changes that have come. Now I will ask the students if they have any queries. They can go ahead. Yes, be quick and introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Good evening, ma'am. I am Riya Sharma and currently I am pursuing my master's in political science. Ma'am, recently there was an explosion near the Israeli embassy in New Delhi, and the intelligence agencies detected an Iranian hand behind it. Also, ma'am, in the recent past, we have seen the war of words between Iranian and Israeli ambassadors to India. So, ma'am, do you think that our relationship with Israel is somewhere affecting our relationship with Iran, also given the recent I2U2?
This is a very good question. And I can say that Iran and Israel are enemies. There are no good relations between both countries, and we are all aware about it. But on the other side, we know that India and Iran share strategic relations and are very close one to another because of different considerations. I think that the relations between India and Israel is mature in the sense that they both understand the concerns and the different considerations that both countries take when they are engaging with other countries with conflictual interests with either India and Israel. Israel is very concerned about Iran because Iran is publicly calling for the annihilation of Israel. And when we are engaging with India, we know, we understand the different concerns of India and the national interests of India when it comes to its relations with Iran. So, of course, there is each and every dynamic between countries affect other dynamics with other countries. But I believe that it will not affect the relations between India and Israel. On the contrary, maybe India in the future will be able to mediate a kind of, I don't know if an agreement, but a kind of dialogue between both countries. Although we all know that India prefers to step aside and not get involved directly into different international conflicts. But I think that there will not be negative implications to the relations between India and Israel. But although both countries also are part of the I2U2 alliance, because this alliance was presented as an economic alliance, in which all the countries that are part of this alliance will cooperate on economic development, on cybersecurity, and on maybe new energies as well. And this is, although many countries perceived it to be the mini Quad of the Middle East, and seeing the countries that are part of this alliance, some commentators can believe that it was formed because of the Iranian threat as well. But for now, I think that the relations will not be affected by India-Iranian relations. Thank you.
Ma'am, there was one more question. Ma'am,
Yes.
Israel and Brazil are the two countries that face elections recently. President Biden congratulated Lula da Silva within minutes of him winning the elections, but it took Mr. Biden a few days to make a phone call to Benjamin Netanyahu. Ma'am, is it just the left-right politics, or there are other points of differences now with Joe Biden as the president of US?
President Biden is a very good friend of Israel. He's being involved and in good relations with the Jewish state for many years and decades, if I may say. And I think that because Israeli politics is quite different from the Brazilian politics in terms that Prime Minister Netanyahu is still forming the government, is trying to form the government. And if he will not be able to do so, then the president of Israel will give the mandate to the second largest party in Israel, when having the most percentage of support to do so. So it took also other leaders to do it, but I believe that the relations between the US and Israel will continue to extend and be strategic, because we share strategic relations with the US. And President Biden, from a personal perspective, is a very good friend of Israel. So there is no place to any concerns regarding it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other question? Come on. Be quick. In that case, Dr. Nina, I would like to have your views on certain issues.
Yes, sir.
India and Israel relations. They have come to me through emails from the students and all that. Can I see you? I
Can you
can't
see me?
Yeah, now I can see you.
Yes.
There are a few queries. I mean, we would like to have your opinion on that. One is that before 2014, it was seen that India had a difficult time in managing relations with Israel as well as Palestine. And there was a time when people used to say that we are more pro-Palestine than Israel. So I think there has been a change in perception. And the best thing that India has done is to de-hyphenate relations with Israel and Palestine. And we want to be friendly with both of them. I'm reminded of, the same, this bracketing of relations with Pakistan. So India never liked that the other countries, particularly major powers, should, hyphenate India and Pakistan together. And in diplomatic parlance, it was said that whenever some foreign dignitary comes to this subcontinent, he visits Pakistan as well as India. It was not liked by India. And so there was a clear, message that we want our relations individually, specifically. I mean, we should not be, our relations with that country should not depend on our relations with Pakistan. So same, I think the approach has been made by India while having relations with Israel and Palestine. Now we want to show to both these countries that we are friends with both of them. We have our, relations with both of them, our interest in, and we are not for this or against this. So that is something that has come, I think, very evidently after 2014. This is a marked change after 2014. The de-hyphenation of, our approach towards Israel and all. This is something to be welcomed. I think Israel is also like this, that you can have your relations with the Palestine as well as with Israel, because there are different issues, there are different interests which India can fulfill, having a relation with both of them. Now, I would like to come to a recent development, that is I2U2. I mean, Israel, India, and the US and UAE. How do you look at it? How Israel looks at this? People say that it is a Western Quad. Do you agree with that?
I think that Israel and India, both countries would like to have more multilateral engagement, and we can see that India is very involved in different multilateral and international forums. And the willingness of both countries is to promote stability, to promote peace, to promote economic development in West Asia. And I think that this alliance will enable this both countries to not only both countries but also other countries in the Gulf and in West Asia to have a dialogue, to have a fruitful dialogue, and to sign relevant agreements which will enable the development of the region, because the region has suffered a lot for the past few decades. There were different countries that tried to stabilize the region by military involvement, and we see today that maybe we should come with another approach. Now, Israel for many years was neglected from the country, and Arab states and countries were not willing to discuss and have a dialogue with Israel. But I think that with the different dynamics that we discussed about earlier in West Asia, many countries in West Asia that are really willing to bring for stability and peace understood that in order to do that, they cannot continue with the same approach they used to promote for many years. And I think that today Israel is not considered to be the problem of the region, but one of the solutions that can bring to stability. Because if we look at the map, we can see that Israel and the Gulf countries and even India are surrounded by hostile entities and countries. And by coming together, finding solutions not only to security threats, but also to healthcare issues, as we saw during the pandemic, that it has been another strategic issue that countries should take into consideration when they are conducting policy, because the pandemic during the lockdowns have implications on all aspects of life. We're talking about security, but also economy, and so forth. And I think that today more and more countries understood that in order to be prosperous and address different challenges, they should come together to forge alliances, whether they are regional or international, in order to address regional and international challenges. So I don't think it is perceived to be another Western alliance, but an alliance of countries that are willing to come together, work together, and bring for more stability and prosperity to their countries and other countries as well.
You're right to a great extent. Now I would like to draw your attention to one more development that has taken place in West Asia, Middle East, that is Abraham Accord. How Israel looks at it. How Israel is hopeful about peaceful conditions in this region. It's a very vital, part of the world, and all major world powers, they focus on this area, and whatever happens there, whatever takes place there, the development that takes place there, it has an impact on the whole world. So how Israel looks at Abraham Accord? Is Israel hopeful of peace in this area?
Yes, Israel is very hopeful about these accords. And we see that since the signing of this accord, the people-to-people connection in Israel, between Israel and the Gulf countries, extended very much. We're talking about the economic sector, but also the academic sector. I can tell you that there are many delegations from Israel and from the Gulf countries coming to these countries and extending their academic relations. And recently, there was like I saw in the newspaper that also Qatar is willing to open an Israeli consulate in its territory, which is a great development and a great implication of these accords as well. Which means that other countries in the region that were not willing to even have a kind of basic dialogue with Israel understand today that in order to promote the national interest, that should consider Israel to put aside all the views about Israel and approaches towards Israel, and to enhance the relations with the Jewish state. And there were also some, why many commentators thought that maybe also Saudi Arabia will normalize its relations with Israel. Now, with Saudi Arabia, it will be more gradual and it will take time because Saudi Arabia has all the places for Islam in its territory, and the implications of normalizing their relations with Israel could be negative. But I believe that if it was possible for the Gulf countries to change their policy towards Israel, other countries will follow suit and will do it as well. Now, I think that also Israel will take this opportunity to form a bridge, to work together with the Gulf countries and form a bridge from West Asia to South Asia. And we already see that India took a very important role in this policy. And I'm sure that Israel believes that by having good relations with the Gulf countries, it will be able to counter and address different challenges on the regional and on the international arena. So to conclude, I think that Israel, for many years and from its inception, always wanted to have good relations with its neighbors and with other Arab and Muslim countries. But now it just came to be that it was possible for Israel to promote this kind of policy with the hard work of its leadership.
Yes, you very correctly analyzed the situation so far as Israel's approach and welcome of this Abraham Accord is concerned. I would like to draw to another issue concerning India-Israel relations. Domestic politics impacts the foreign policy of a country. Foreign policy impacts domestic politics. Domestic politics also impacts a country's foreign. We can see this in the case of India, 2014. It's very obvious. There was a change in domestic politics, and its impact we can see during all these years. What about Israel? The domestic politics of Israel impacts Israel's foreign policy, its relations with other countries.
Yes, if we're talking about India, of course, the domestic politics influence for many years its approach towards the Jewish state and towards other countries as well. During the Cold War, because of domestic, regional, and international considerations, India didn't have good relations with Israel and conducted a pro-Arab approach. In 1992, the party which was in power in India and normalized the relations with Israel was the Indian National Congress led by Prime Minister Rao. And it is true that it took a decade for these relations to become more strategic when Prime Minister Vajpayee came to power in 1998. And Prime Minister Vajpayee understood that in order to promote India's national interest, it should form a security triangle between India, Israel, and the USA. This is especially after the Pokhran-2 tests and following the Kargil war between India and Pakistan, where Israel was the only country, one of the only countries to assist India in its war against Pakistan. And what is interesting is that when Prime Minister Singh came to power in 2004, there was a kind of fear in Israel that maybe there will be a deterioration of relations between both countries, but the contrary occurred. And during his tenure, the relations not only extended, but also we could see ginger steps in the change of approach of India towards the Jewish state. And then when Prime Minister Modi came to power, he, as we discussed about, changed he completely changed the approach towards the Jewish state. Now, if I'm looking at Israeli politics, of course, that there is an impact of the identity of the leader and the party that he is leading, and when we're talking about foreign policy. But as I said earlier, I don't think that there will be negative implications to India and Israel relations, because these relations are significantly strategic, not only for India, but also for Israel. Israel cherished this relation. And we saw that when there was a change of leadership in Israel recently in the 4 last years, following the political crisis in Israel, having 5 different legislative elections in Israel, and still willing to maintain and extend the strategic partnership between both countries, I believe that it will not have negative implications, but on the contrary, it doesn't matter who will be in power in Israel and in India, for my humble opinion, but the relations will continue to thrive, will continue to extend. But the only difference will be in the visibility of the relations. If we see now, during Prime Minister Modi, a kind of openness and visibility of these relations, not only during high-level visits, but also on social media. If we're talking about Twitter, when leaders of both countries are congratulating the people of India and the people of Israel during different festivals or national days, I believe that it will continue to occur, as we see during Prime Minister Naftali Bennett tenure and Prime Minister Yair Lapid tenure, which are not coming from the Likud party of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Prime Minister Bennett is coming from the Yamina party, which is a right-wing party, and Prime Minister Yair Lapid is coming from a centrist party, some would say centrist leftist party, and still both Prime Minister Modi and these prime ministers, Israeli prime ministers, just expressed their willingness to maintain this important relation. So to answer your question, there will be change of leadership in both countries, but I think that in this stage, there won't be any negative implications for the relations of the countries.
Thank you very much. I'm thankful to you for making clarifications about certain issues in bilateral ties, and I hope the students must have understood the implications of these clarifications and all that. So once again, I would like to thank you for sparing time and helping us understand India-Israel relations. And we hope that whenever need arises, we will like to request you to have your opinion on India-Israel ties. And whenever you come to India next time, please let us know. We all welcome you. And with that, I would like to seek your permission to close this session. And I think everything has been said by you about the relations between two countries. So thank you very much. Now I close the session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.